Now that we've had the chance to kind of sit back and sort of take in exactly what Microsoft has done with their showcase event, and showcase season is over, and we have a huge situation where Microsoft has won the game showcase season. In many ways, saved the game showcase season, in my opinion, because there was a lot of lackluster stuff. I know there was a lot of PlayStation fanboys that went out there and tried to claim that maybe Nintendo saved it or something along those lines. I disagree with that. Like, I'm not a Nintendo guy, but announcing like a remake of an old game and things like that, it definitely doesn't do it for me. Another Mario Brothers side-scrolling game. Again, this isn't the 1980s anymore. Let's move on and upgrade and update. Like, to me, their showcase was more of a end-of-life thing for the Switch. So that's how I kind of look at that. And I still look at what Microsoft did as being something that much more impactful for the actual like hardcore gamer and things like that. So I want to get into this news because this is pretty interesting stuff. For some reason, this is only just coming out now. It seems like this was announced a while ago, but nobody really paid attention to the quotes. It's so weird to me because I always say that when you read stuff or the interviews after the E3, not E3, people realistically, they read what they want to, right? They don't go out there and kind of totally understand what's going on. So when we got 27 games in about an hour, and then of course the Starfield showcase, I thought that was pretty phenomenal as well. That's a lot to fit into an hour, right? And I think 14 pieces of that out of the 27 were from the first party. So a pretty incredible number. But people tend to be never fully happy. And they're like, well, where is State of Decay 3? Where's Perfect Dark? Where's this? Where's that? Well, Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty says that the first-party teams are aware that the expectations going forward will be to showcase gameplays for their titles. And so obviously Microsoft provided updates on a number of games that were initially announced years ago, but had gone into radio silence since then. Prominent titles like Fable and Avowed re-emerged after long absences with in-engine footage and gameplay footage respectively. But of course, you don't need to look at Microsoft's slate of announced first-party games for too long to realize, as things stand, that's just a drop in the bucket. The Xbox Game Studios banner collectively has a number of games in the pipeline that were announced years ago, but haven't been heard from a single time since their reveals. So when can we expect similar gameplay updates for those? A lot of people are kind of questioning that and saying, hey, well, where are some of these other games? And I've kind of pointed out, listen, they'll show them when they're ready. It doesn't make sense to, outshadow one thing or too much, because next year's another year. You have other things and other times where you can show games. While it's hard to say how long it'll actually be before we have concrete details on all the games in the group, at least a few of them seem to be gearing up for gameplay reveals in the next year and a half. Speaking recently, Xbox Game Studios boss Matt Booty touched on the topic and explained that he's cautiously confident that the likes of State of Decay 3 and Perfect Dark will be ready to do gameplay deep dives within the next 18 months. He said, and I quote, "As I look ahead to 2024, everything that we're going to ship, I've seen builds of very recently and played them. I've said this before, there's so much stuff in Fable where when I get to Turn 10 Studios, Alan Hartman, and I'm just like, why don't you show this and this and this?" And he goes, no, because there's a lot of cool stuff in that game that I'm excited about. As I think ahead, even as we get into 2025, we've seen builds of games at the Initiative. I know just because Undead Labs are there in Seattle, what's going on with State of Decay 3, we've seen these things. So as I look ahead to the next 18 months in terms of what we're going to be able to show and deliver and do that kind of gameplay reveal, I'm confident because the teams are hard at work and they get that that's kind of the bar right now, which is let's show it, let's show up with gameplay and do a deeper dive when we do show up. Perfect Dark, which is currently into development at the Initiative, was announced with a CG trailer back in 2020, and though reports have claimed since that the game has hit some road bumps behind the scenes, co-developer Crystal Dynamics assured earlier this year that production is moving along well. The developer also recently stated that Perfect Dark development wouldn't be impacted by its parent company, Embracer, their restructuring program at all, which I think is really good news, since I think a lot of people are really interested in looking at what the new Perfect Dark is going to be all about. I mean, Microsoft really wanted to kind of nail different genres and things like that, and this really kind of pushes that to the next stratosphere, in my opinion. Meanwhile, State of Decay 3 was announced a few months before Perfect Dark, in July 2020, also with the CGI trailer, which again was the last we saw of it. Developer Undead Labs said at the time that the game was in early pre-production. Now, last year it was confirmed the Gears of War developer, the Coalition, was providing assistance with Unreal Engine 5, which State of Decay 3 is being built on. And I just want to point out real quick that it also came out that Perfect Dark has switched to Unreal Engine 5, and that looks like it's going to be something to behold. I think Unreal Engine looks absolutely fantastic, and we're finally going to be able to start seeing some graphical things pushed where we hadn't seen that before, and that is a highly exciting prospect. Of course, where these two games and others like them might show up is another question. Common sense would suggest that Microsoft will want to reserve these showcases for maybe next year's the Game Developer Showcase, but with the likes of the Game Awards and Gamescom, first-party streams like Developer Direct, there are plenty of other suitable stages for them to reveal these types of things, and I think that that is exactly what they probably should do in terms of being able to go out there and show these games for everybody. Now, listen, I know people think that I'm maybe a little bit too optimistic with some of this stuff, but it's like, what more do you want? I mean, the next 18 months, it seems like are going to be packed to begin with if you're an Xbox fan. And by the way, you can already pre-download or whatever, pre-install like Avowed and Forza and Starfield. There's also obviously going to be Hellblade 2, Flight Simulator. So there's like 5-6 games already scheduled for the next 18 months, and I think that's pretty damn incredible if you think about it. And not only is that incredible, but we have lots of gamers that with lots of different types of games that are coming out, so everybody should be able to find something to play, and I think that is realistically kind of where we're at with this whole situation right now. And a lot of people are kind of looking for reasons to hate on something or other, but I would say that no doubt Perfect Dark would be a 2025 game, and that sounds like it's like tremendously far out, but it's really a year and a half away from that. So to be honest with you, it's not that far out. And when you, like I said, when you consider what they've got coming for the next 18 months, and by the way, that's not all. They've also confirmed that there's unannounced stuff that's going to be coming out in 2024. So, I think it's going to be a big time year for Xbox. And, there's only so much you can fit in and so much you can show. So, I totally understand where they're coming from with that. And I do hope that they continue to make new announcements and things. But people really get in their feelings over this stuff. Like, oh, well, whereas I would love to see Everwild personally. But, I need to see it when it's more closer to being ready than when it's not. So, I don't know. How do you guys feel about this stuff? Do you guys, like the idea? Did you want them to show everything right at one point? And then I feel like if they showed it this year, then it really takes away what they could show next year. Because I think they're going to show this stuff next year at their not E3. And I don't want them to show that stuff 2 years in a row, if that makes sense. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. We could think differently, or we could think the same. Let me know. Rack 'em up. Crep Gamer out.